انفجار ثاني وانفجارات كبيرة وهائلة، وربما هذا ما أشار له المسؤولون العسكريون.
The United States is in a state of confusion and surprise.
We fear this. We fear that they have something out that majority of the people don't know about.
Olan tüm halkların hakları gibi haklar. Ne aşağı ne yukarı. Ne fazla ne az.
Pent-up feelings that may result from decades of repression and people who've had members of their family killed by that regime.
A lot of killers. Get a lot of killers. Why you think our country's so innocent?
But I won't attack it because someone fixed me on. I don't let anybody use me to fight their battles.
Welcome to Varn Blog, and tonight I have another short. I've done 3 interviews about this war in Ukraine, something very real and yet very distant to me. Very real in that I have known people from Ukraine, known people from Russia, know people in Russia now. Very distant in that I'm not dealing with the deprivations of either the sanctions, although gas is rising and will continue to rise, or bombs flying at my house. As I've said multiple times, on principle, I will never shame or shit on anyone who is defending their home from an oncoming shelling. Whether there are Nazis in their ranks or not. After all, I haven't lived in a country that didn't have fascists in the ranks somewhere. We may like to dream and such a polity exists, and it's never ours. If we do think it's ours, it's usually only in our own chauvinism, and who knows what side we may actually be on. I've been reading a very short polemic and a very cynical one, Thanatos Triumphant by Mike Davis. Davis seems to be nearing the end of his life. Let's hope he still has some more in him. But he reminds us that these Black Swan events really do expose the foolishness of us all. We have been banking on Bonapartes and great men and our incoherent class allegiances since we haven't found a working class to connect to, even though we've used the rhetoric. We've avoided defining the words in lieu of people realizing that this was not what we were promised, and it isn't who we promised it to. From Bernie to Xi to Putin to Biden to Bolsonaro to Lula, you all pin your hopes on great executives in a time in which these states are more and more fragmented. And yet the movement of such an executive, the consolidation and removal of most of civil society in Russia through war, the actions of Putin, the harsh sanctions in which he will receive, a war in which it looked like he should have been able to win fairly quickly, but the troops either believed or were unprepared or were strategically underused. Any of those reasons could have been the reason, and none of us really know. I've talked to people with connections to Russia and Ukraine, and I will probably talk to more as I can find them and assure their safety as they talk to me. That's why I've mostly talked to people here. But we will see what we can do. I have connections in Europe that I plan on using. But I want you to ask yourself a question. Listen to Joe Biden's very popular, although only 47% of the public liked it, but still, it's more than he's gotten yet, State of the Nation speech. Notice that all the old platitudes that they were playing with, the neo-Fordism, the democratic socialist peons, this, that, and the other, have been slowly dropping away for a Cold War. Not one and we're interested in actually fighting the war, but the consolidation of a nation without having to put actual boots on an actual ground. It's better if you pay someone else's price in blood than your own. After all, even those Soviet scrap planes don't seem to be moving out of Poland into Kyiv. And yet, we see liberals, admittedly a large minority, but still calling for a no-fly zone without realizing that it would almost ensure at least the outbreak of a massive conventional war, if not a nuclear one. Barring that event, though, nuclear arms talk is also used just to exacerbate fears. While it is no impossibility, it is still highly unlikely. Very few people actually want to watch even their world burn. But we've learned in this period of the return of great men that no man sees all the outcomes. No society plans for them all as long as they plan alone. And even China increasingly appears opaque. Will it continue pursuing its green dream, or will it buy a lot of Russian energy on the cheap under the pretense of supporting their conflicted allies? The question is almost impossible to answer, and anyone who tells you they know, they don't. While it is clear that the Chinese leadership is the biggest adult in the room, it is also clear that it too, from its bureaucratically collectivist leadership, has foregone the wisdom of crowds increasingly to the wisdom of fewer and fewer men. And these men all over the world are increasingly of a certain kind of person. I once said that we needed an Obama, the kind of president that would be truly great to even maintain the status quo, and that I didn't think that that was possible. But I don't see that anywhere on the horizon, not even here. As I've said before, the assumption has always been there's an adult in the room of which you could have some kind of fanship and it would save you. And I've said before and over again, no one is going to save you. We save us, or we hang separately. To botch, two aphorisms into one. What is clear to me, though, is if even the worst were to happen to Putin, what would follow him would not likely be an Atlanticist version of a nice liberal Russia. It will be even harder. And what is likely to emerge as a bipartisan consensus will not be Trump, but it will be the return of the foreign policy establishment and the chaos that they reigned from the Cold War up through the American hegemony in the 90s, which they also squandered within a decade. The Ghouls will win for now. This misplay has realigned the world. Hopefully you see that and have no delusions about what it means. It is neither apocalyptic yet, nor is any side likely to come out a hero. For now, some Ukrainians may feel solidarity with the West, with Europe, with America, but they will remember how long we let the shelling continue. And do we really have a choice? And for all the talk of NATO threats, everyone still knows, if they know the law, that there was no way Ukraine was entering NATO right now. Everyone played into everyone else's hand. It was like a perfect cacophony of fools into one hellish symphony. How does your Bonapartism feel now? Do you really trust one leader, one party to do this? The catastrophes will keep on coming. They always do. We had a long peace after World War II, but that is a human oddity. And it's created conditions because of our hubris in that oddity, because of capitalism, because of overdevelopment, because of imperialism, because of nationalism, because of 1,000 isms and 1,000 easy, sleepy dreams, and people just wanting a normal life. And who can blame them? That is actually the natural state of most people. Even those who think that, well, the rising gas prices will reduce gas shortage. Oh, no, it will increase pumping, as it always does, because it will increase the incentives to produce, not just to lower the price, but because there's profits to be made. Anyone who knows the 19th century steel industry would know this. No, Thanatos is triumphant. The ghouls have won. This is not the worst of all possible worlds. That is a nuclear fireball. But it is surely not the best. Don't let anyone throw you with talk of one side winning or another. It seems like all sides have benefited from closing off and returning to Cold War status, and yet the world will be lesser for it. The multipolar world just resembles the old world, and we've just forgotten its hidden horrors. But we do not exist in that old world either. The climate is still changing. Populations are still raging. Infrastructures are still brittle. The klugs we have built in the systems, material, mental, and social, are too complicated for anyone to comprehend. And if anyone tells you otherwise because of some stupid relationship they have on the internet, they know nothing. Too many people have treated this as a debate until it became a career, and from a career into a grift. I have said it over and over again, and I will say it again. But tomorrow, there is still time. I do not call just to give you doom and gloom. As I said, we are not in the worst possible of worlds. Because there is still a tomorrow. I'm not going to end on facile hope. In almost every indicator, things are worse off. This Cold War removes the pressure of the capital scene, changing Mike Davis's phrasing from the Anthropocene. Everyone can breathe a sigh of relief because the public is distracted from the impending climate change for now. We need to scramble for oil and get it all flowing again. Our last gasp for energy. And yet we see all of our networks that we built up in the last 20 years have become too complex and too fragile all at once. The global scale that we need to fight climate change is a very global scale that is being used to propel the problems of climate change. And the more we have faith that one person, one political movement, one idea can propel us into that future, the more I worry that we'll just replay the hubris of the 20th century that led us here. I am still a socialist, a Marxist, a communist, whatever you want to call me. These are still my analytical frameworks and my goals. But we don't know how to fight this. We have hints. We have less class societies and technologies that do not necessarily depend on that many resources of which we can utilize. But so far we haven't. I always think about the wisdom of crowds and the madness of mobs. For both cliches are true. The insanity of a mass panic and a mass hysteria or brief burst of nihilism or nationalism, either one actually, can ripple through the populace, rendering us temporarily mad and in glee and foolish in ways that violate all seeming principles, because those principles were only intellectual abstractions to which we did not really cling to in the first place. But crowns are wise when they are not in the grip of such a motive, identitarian terror management. We are stronger together than alone, even if to be stronger we must think as individuals. This paradox, this dialectic, that we need to be more individual and more communal at once. Don't let anyone render those two concepts a twain and give you facile collectivism or idiot and alienated individualism. The better we are together, the stronger we are as one, the stronger one is, the better one can be. So the ghouls will win tomorrow. We'll have bipartisan consistency in America, the return of neoconservatism. The fringes will seem fringier, and they will get more desperate in their pleas. But as time goes on, and the status quo can't be maintained, as it hasn't been able to be maintained any time in the last 30 years, even in our boom times, what do you think you'll see? We still have agency. There's still a chance. We can start building the kinds of networks that are resilient, that spread information, that empower us, that make people who wield that power accountable to us, so that they not become addicted to the position, as power is corruption. At least like that. It is addictive. And over time, hubris will make you stupid. The Bonaparte will fail. The mountain will eat its children. We must be bigger than that. And it's time to start figuring out how to. The Ghouls have won today. And they did not even win by their cunning or strength. They won by being the strongest party in a period of entropy, where the strong men made a misstep and set everything into realignment. No one can know everything. No one can see every step. Remember it. Tattoo it on your heart. You are stronger the more people you pull knowledge from, the more talents you accrue, and the more you support each other. So, as you can tell, I am not without hope, but this is a dark time. Political allegiances and things we've assumed for the last 16, 20 years are changing faster than we thought. If COVID rearranged things, this rearranges things even deeper and again. Inflation will rearrange things again. And again and again. And again and again and again. Know it. Accept it. Start thinking about how we can use each other to build these systems, and stop wasting your time bloviating over the fandom of these increasingly hubristic and delusional men. Good night.